All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Hope you are having a great night so far. Hey, we're going to get started here in just a few minutes, but you know how this goes. I need you guys to help me share this with a few people. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, just go ahead and share that to your news feed. Go ahead and send someone the link for YouTube, whatever you guys have to do. And as you're hopping on, let me know if you're watching. Let me know in the comments, drop your name. Let me know if the audio is working well. I'm trying to kind of figure all this stuff out still. I've got a whole setup going on in my tiny little office in my room. So I would love to, in my house actually. So I'd love to know if this sounds good, if it's looking good, all that sort of thing. So yeah, as a few people are hopping on, I already see a few that are watching on YouTube and Facebook. If you guys could just go ahead and like this video, that's going to help the algorithm. I know it's annoying when every streamer, every person does this, but if you don't do it, Facebook, YouTube just like completely crushes the stream. It doesn't show it to anybody. So make sure you hit that like button really quick. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel, of course, sharing it on Facebook, all that good stuff. So I'm not going to spend too much longer. Hey, what's up, Dez? What's up, Rodney? Like I said, make sure you guys are commenting. I'm watching the live feed right here so I can see you guys as you're commenting. Let me know that you're watching. Thanks for hopping on. Like I said, I'm not going to spend too much longer, but I just want to make sure you guys help me share this stuff real quick because I really believe it's going to help somebody. This is something that's been in my heart. I've been thinking about for a long time. I've been wanting to get into more streaming and creating content, specifically discipleship content, Christian content that's going to help you grow, help you become a better believer, help you grow into all that God has called you to do. And I'm super excited after everything that's happened in my life over the past several months that we're finally getting to a point where it seems like we're going to be able to do that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and hop in. So as you're getting in, remember, again, just drop a comment, drop a like, let me know if you're watching. Hey, Dina, see you. She said it sounds amazing. Thank you so much. I've been working hard on it, so I hope it sounds good. I'm sure I sound a little nasally. I'm kind of getting over the big C. I'm not going to say it because YouTube will shut me down, but getting over some sickness. But tonight, what I want to talk to you guys about is I want to talk to you about starting your year right. Starting your year right. It's already 2022, and I'm just like everybody else. It seems crazy to me. I still feel like it's summer of 2020. The past 2 years, the past year and a half has just flown by. It seems like it's so hard to keep up with everything that's going on. We just went through some stuff. Me and my family, we had to cancel our Christmas stuff because I came down with COVID and we didn't want to spread it to anybody. And so it's just been a wild season. But what I've kind of gotten to the point of is I'm tired of COVID and circumstances of life holding me back. Because let's be honest, there's always going to be a circumstance, there's always going to be a situation, there's going to be a family situation, a financial situation, there's going to be a job situation. There's always going to be something that could hold you back. There's always going to be something that you have dreams and vision and ideas, and there's always going to be something that could keep you from that. So what I want to do is I want to talk about some things that maybe your life doesn't change at all on January 1. Like, come on, we all know that on January 1, it's not like you're going to be a brand new person, that you're just going to immediately get rid of all your old habits. But I'm also not the type of person that's like, hey, let's just do away with goal setting. Let's just do away with New Year's resolutions. I know there's a lot of people around right now that are just like, hey, you never get your New Year's resolutions anyway, so just give up on it. There's no point in even trying it. So I'm not really either one of those. I want to kind of be more in the middle. And so I want to talk about how do we start our year on the right foot? How do we start it in a way that's going to set us up for success? And I just have a few different principles and things that I want to give you guys tonight. So, hey, what's up, Chris? I have a few other people. I don't recognize you guys, but thank you so much for hopping on. Again, if y'all wouldn't mind liking this, sharing it, especially on Facebook, those shares are huge. And drop a comment if you are watching. Let me know who's watching. So the first thing that I want to talk about is really this idea of a new year, of goal setting, of all these different things. And I think we have to go into it with a certain mindset and a certain framework, because like I've already mentioned, just because it's a new year doesn't mean necessarily anything's going to change. Just because you write something down doesn't mean anything's going to change. Just because you want something to happen doesn't mean it's going to change. Just because you need something to happen doesn't mean it's going to change. So what is actually going to affect your life and help you get started in 2022, where this could be a year where you're no longer being knocked backwards, you're no longer being set backwards, but you're actually able to make some progress and some process. And so the first thing that I want to talk to you about for goal setting is really setting specific goals. So going into a new year, it's super easy for us to set goals like, I want to lose weight, or I want to save money, or I want to be more involved in church, or I want to do ministry more, I want to write more. But those can be such skewed numbers, such a gray area. So you could say, I want to lose weight, but what does that mean? Is that 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds? You don't know. And what happens a lot of times is when we set goals that are very ambiguous and they're not defined, is we'll set the goal, I want to lose weight. And then when we're into it a couple months, we maybe didn't lose as much weight as we wanted to, or it's not really working out the way we thought it would. And so we'll start to kind of trick ourselves and be like, well, I think I lost a little bit of weight. I think I saved a little bit of money. And we'll be like, I'm good. I met my New Year's resolution. I met my goal. But you really didn't, because you didn't set a specific goal. And so you need to set a specific goal. You need to set, hey, this is what I'm trying to do this year. I'm trying to finish this semester of school. I'm trying to save this amount of money. I'm trying to XYZ, whatever it is for you, make a specific goal. The next thing that I want to talk about just for a few moments is something that's really helped me, is focusing on your output, not necessarily the outcome. I'm going to say that again. When you're setting a goal for a new year, or any time in your life when you're setting a goal, I want you to think more about your output versus the outcome. Because if we're honest with ourselves, we can't control the outcome. I can't control what's going to happen in the economy. I can't control what's going to happen with COVID. I can't control what's going to happen at my job. I can't control even what's going to happen in my own house and with my kids sometimes. We can't control the outcome, but we can control our output. And I think this is what a lot of people have gotten messed up with during COVID over the past 2 years, is because we can't control the outcome, because we're afraid that, man, COVID's going to mess me up, or they're going to put these new restrictions in at my job. Because we're not in control of the outcome, we think we're not in control of anything. We think we have no power, no say to make any change in our future. But that's not really true, because you do have power, but it's just more on your output versus the actual outcome. And what do I mean by output? By output, I mean, what are the things that you can actually control? Can you wake up earlier? Can you spend less money? Can you eat less? Can you work out more? And I know those are very just straightforward type of things, but you may have certain circumstances, because losing weight's always a big goal of mine. I always use that as an example. It's usually the number one goal people have, is to lose weight and to save more money in a new year. And it's hard sometimes to understand our bodies, and maybe the outcome doesn't work out the way we thought it would. But that doesn't give us an excuse to just say, well, forget it. I'm just not going to do anything. I'm not in control of anything. No, you are in control of some things. So what is the output that you can do this year? Or what is the action that you can do this year? Not worrying about the outcome, not worrying about people that you can't control. You can't control your manager. You can't control your boss. You can't control your coach. All these things that you can't control. Don't worry about that. But what can I do? What is the action step? What are the principles that I can put into my life that are going to cause a change? And so, like I said, some of those could be things you can control. I'm going to wake up at this specific time. I'm going to stop eating sweets. I'm going to read my Bible every day. I'm going to share the gospel with one person a week. All of those are things that you can control. Nothing else that's going on in the world could go into anarchy tomorrow, and you still control when you wake up. You could lose your job tomorrow and you still control whether you're going to go to the gym or not. Well, maybe you don't get to go to the gym because maybe you can't afford a gym, but you could still go out inside and walk. You get what I'm saying. You control these different things. So focus on the output not the outcome. And then the last thing I want to talk about as far as goal setting, and then we're going to get into talking about a little bit more spiritual focus, some prayer and fasting, because I know many of you have hopped on here for that. Again, make sure you guys are sharing this. Help me out. This is my first one, trying to do some help for people here. So make sure you're sharing this stream. But the last thing that I want to talk to you about is your actions, or let me say it this way. I want to talk to you about your habits. I want to talk to you about your habits. Habits, or you could say systems. Your habits and your systems. I think it was James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, which is an incredible book. If you haven't read that and you're having a hard time developing good habits in your life, developing good systems in your life, highly recommend that. Atomic Habits by James Clear. But I believe it's in this book where he says that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. I'm going to say that again. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. And let me unpack that for you for a few moments. It means that a lot of times when we set a goal, I want to save $5,000. I want to get a promotion at my job. I want to lose weight. I want to run a marathon. I want to do a triathlon. When we set a goal, we think that it's going to give us this supernatural kind of almost like Marvel-like energy, that we're going to become a superhero and we're going to get everything we need, and we're just going to become the person that runs a marathon. We're going to become the person that saves money. And you may have a little bit of emotion for a few days or even a few weeks, but that's going to wear off. And soon you're not going to rise up. You're actually going to fall down to the lowest common denominator. So in your life, what are the habits and the systems that you're putting in place that are going to get you towards your goal? Instead of thinking, okay, well, I'm just on January 1, I'm going to get the motivation and I'm going to have the willpower and I'm going to have the strength. Instead of trying to psych yourself up and hype yourself up, what if you just put habits in your life where you just know, if I continue to do these habits every single day, just like we talked about the output, if I continue to do this thing every single day, if I continue to check this off every single day, that eventually I'm going to get towards my goal. I'm not even going to focus on the goal right now. Stop trying to focus on the goal for a second. I know that sounds weird, but take your mind off of that end goal for a second and realize, hey, first I just need to get off the couch. First, I just need to take that first step. I can't run a marathon yet. I need to run that first mile. So before I focus on this big thing, let me just look at my life. What can I do every day, every week, every month? And something that a lot of people mess themselves up on is they don't put in habits that are sustainable. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to eat 1,000 calories a day, that's just not sustainable. No one, no weight, no type of body type is going to be able to eat 1,000 calories a day. You're going to be in a bad mood. You're going to be hangry all the time. Like, it's not sustainable. You may be able to do it for a little bit, but it's not sustainable. And people would do other things, like you've never worked out before, and it's like, I'm going to go to the gym every day for the next 6 months. Well, that's not sustainable. Your body's not going to be ready for that. So pick some habits and some systems and some goals that are sustainable, to where you're like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times this week. I'm gonna not eat In-N-Out. I'm going to only eat it twice this week. Instead of 3 times, I'm going to eat In-N-Out twice this week. You know, there's things that we can do that are more sustainable. And then once that gets normal, then you can go from there. So just again, a few different things. Focus on your habits and your systems. Focus on your output. What can you control? And then also focus on writing down specific goals. What are specific goals that you have for yourself, for your family, maybe for your career? And you can even break that up in different categories. Like for me, a lot of times I'll break it up. I'll have kind of spiritual goals. I'll have self-help goals. I'll have goals for our family. I'll have goals for Oasis Church, which I would consider kind of my career, business life, and kind of break those things up, because obviously you're not necessarily going to always be able to connect together a business goal and a family goal. It's not really going to connect. So you could say, okay, I want to have a goal of spending an hour a day with my children over here in the family category, and then the business category, I want to increase our profit 10% this year, whatever it is. So you can even kind of break those down. You can go into even smaller bite sizes, like what are the smaller goals that are going to get you to getting that 10% increase in sales. So I could talk about this stuff all night, all day. If you guys have any input, any questions or anything, make sure you are talking to me in the chat. What's up, Bruce? What's up, Kelly? Dez, that's so true. Thank you guys so much for hopping on here on Facebook. Again, if you guys can just continue to share that for me, those of you that are on YouTube, if you can like this, even if you could share this on your YouTube, or I'm sorry, on your Facebook, that would be great. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you get notifications when I go live. I'm working on in 22, one of my goals is to do this sort of thing more often, even where I get to eventually doing weekly, if not multiple times a week, doing different streams. And kind of the way I'm thinking about doing it in this new year is not necessarily a stream where I just kind of compact it all together, but maybe have one night a week where I talk about goal setting and leadership and different things like that, and then another night where I could talk about prayer, fasting, spiritual disciplines, and then maybe another night where I could just do more ministry, maybe kind of deliver a message, a sermon. So that's kind of my goal for 2022, and it would help me out a lot if you guys would go ahead and subscribe, help me get the word out there. Thank you guys for the response. People chatting. Go ahead and hit that chat if you have any questions. Kelly Sims said sustainable. Yes, sustainable is so key. Anything you're doing in life, any new processes or any new system that you introduce in your life, it's got to be sustainable, because you don't want to be one of those people. It happens so many times. I've done it so many times where you get going, you have a good idea, you have a good process, you have a good whatever it is, you're good, but then it just breaks you down. It's just too much. It wears you out. So cool. Well, I'm going to transition now, and hopefully some of you guys may be interested more in the second part of the live stream. And especially those of you that are a part of Oasis Church, I want to make sure you guys tap into this. So if you know anybody from Oasis that's not watching, go ahead, send them this stream in a message, something like that on Facebook, because we are going to be talking about some specific Oasis Church things here. It applies to everyone, but specifically what we're doing at Oasis. So I'm actually going to share this to our Oasis page really quickly, just wanting to share it to a few more people. Awesome. Got that shared. People are saying, hey, that would be awesome. Yeah, hopefully people would enjoy those multiple nights streaming. Awesome. So what I want to talk to you tonight for the rest of the night is about what we're doing at Oasis Church, and really is what I do, what me and Pastor Hannah, what my family does, what we do every January, really before we start getting into our goal setting and what we want to do in the year. We always take January to focus on, God, what do you want to do in this year? Because we all know that we can make our plans, but God has his own plans. And we, of course, always want to stick with God's plans, we don't want to stick with our plans. We want to stick with the plans that God has for us. And so we do every year, we do a time of prayer and fasting. And I wanted to just take a few moments to talk about what that time of prayer and fasting means and why it's so significant. Because I truly believe that if you'll give God your first, and we talk about this a lot of times with money, but it's not always money. A lot of times more valuable to us than our money is our time. If you will give God the first of your year, if you will give him the first fruits, is what the Bible would call it, I truly believe that he's going to multiply everything else you do throughout that year. So if you'll take just a couple weeks at the beginning of the year to set aside for prayer, for fasting, for consecration, trust me, it's not going to leave you behind. The year's not going to move past you. You're not going to be too late. All those different things that we get worried about. God is going to supernaturally multiply the seed that you have invested, the first fruits that you have invested. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9 says, the heart of man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. So here's the deal. We just talked about goal setting. I want you to set goals. I want you to set goals for your life. I don't think we need to be those people that are like, well, God's will is going to happen, so I'm just going to live my life and whatever happens, happens. No, you need to have some plans. You need to have some goals, but God is going to establish your steps. And before we go into this new year, because I've already been feeling it, I know people are ready to get back to the hustle, to the grind. We're ready for this stuff to be over, all the limitations from COVID and all those different things. I know you're ready to get to all that. But before you do that, let's take a few moments to honor God, to put God first, so that he can establish our steps. I want God to establish my steps. I don't want to establish my steps. I don't want to have to come up with the steps. I don't want to have to come up with the plan. I don't want to have to come up with the resources. I want God to establish that. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, many of you would be familiar, says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." So I know what it's talking about in the context there, but let's apply this to our lives. So many of us, we are seeking for things to be added to our lives, but we're not seeking God first. We're not seeking the kingdom first. We're not seeking righteousness first. And so let's just focus for the next couple of minutes and talk about how can we seek God at the beginning of the year. What we're doing at Oasis, and if you're not a part of Oasis Church, maybe you're just connected with me randomly, or you found this stream, so thankful that you're here. You can join in with us if you want to. We'll be doing online content. I'll be doing a lot of streaming during this 21 days of prayer and fasting. But the first thing that we're going to be doing is starting on January 1, we are starting a challenge really called the 100 Days to Glory. The 100 Days to Glory. And we're joining in. There's, I think, 200 or 300 churches now that are joining in with this, but it originally was started by Pastor Devin Wallace, Bishop Kevin Wallace for Redemption to the Nations Church. And I'm sorry, my son is in the background. If you guys can't hear him, it's bedtime and he is not happy about it. But they started this challenge because they felt like there was a person in their church who had a word from the Lord that if we would give our first 100 days of the year to God, that something glorious, something supernatural was going to happen. Maybe not necessarily right at the end of that 100 days, but I just believe at some point throughout that 100 days, at some point during this time, because of our prayer, because of our consecration, that God is going to start to do some incredible things in our life, even if it's just giving us more peace, more clarity, or if it is something supernatural like a healing or a provision, whatever it is, I believe that God is going to do something big. And so that's going to start January 1. And here's what it means, the 100-day challenge. The first thing is, and it's going to sound big at first, but just stick with me. The first thing is it's committing that every week you're going to spend 100 minutes reading the Bible. 100 minutes reading the Bible. Now, that's not much at all. I think that works out to like 15, 17 minutes, something like that. That's like one chapter a day. It's really not that much time, but it's committing to reading 100 minutes of the Bible each week, and then also reading the Bible 100 minutes each week, and then also praying for 100 minutes each week. Again, that's like 15, 17 minutes. You probably do this whole thing in 30 minutes a day. So 100 minutes of prayer, 100 minutes of Bible reading, and 100 days of generosity. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to give away money every day or that you have to do something big every day. But what if for the next 100 days, now that we're out of Christmas, we're out of the holiday season, what if you just thought, how can I be more generous? When I get some extra money, instead of thinking, oh, this is great, I can buy something for me. No, how can I bless someone else? How can I be radically generous during this season? That could be paying for somebody's Starbucks. That could be buying school supplies for someone. There's so many different ways that you can be generous. We always say at Oasis, you can be generous with your time, your talent, or your treasure. So maybe the way that you're generous, and this isn't just for Oasis Church, this is for anybody that's watching. If you have another church that you go to, maybe you can be generous with your time and serve in the church, whatever it is. Maybe you could serve in the kids ministry. Come on, somebody. But we're going to be, again, praying for 100 days, reading our Bibles for 100 days, living generously for 100 days. And we should be doing these things all the time. These are very basic things, but I think us making it a little bit of a challenge and us putting a little, almost a little bit of a competition to it is going to make us even more want to seek after God. So reading our Bible, praying, being generous. And I actually wanted to share with you, we are going to be let me pull this up really quickly. We're actually going to be doing a Bible reading plan for our whole church. This is the first time that we've ever done this. We, of course, always encourage people to read the Bible, but I think there's something powerful, and we talk about this a lot at our church Oasis. There's something powerful about when we all come together around a specific cause, a specific idea, a specific word, a specific sermon. And so I know there's people that have their own, that they've already chosen their Bible reading plan for the year, and that's totally fine. But I want to encourage you, if you're a part of Oasis and you don't know what your Bible reading plan is going to be this year, I want to encourage you to join along with us. And I'm going to show it to you here in just a second. But I want to encourage you to join along with us for a couple different reasons. One, we're going to be talking about this at Oasis. So on Sundays, on Wednesday nights, in our different online content, we're going to be talking about this specific Bible reading plan. So I think it's going to be cool because while we're all reading it together, you're going to be able to talk to people about it. You're going to be able to talk in connect groups. You're going to be able to talk to your friends about it. You're going to be able to share like, hey, this is the revelation I got out of that. This is the revelation I got out of this one. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. And I think it's going to make all of us much more aligned and focused together. And then there's also the accountability side of things, to where if we're all on the same plan, people are going to know where you're supposed to be at in your Bible reading plan. So if you're 3 weeks behind and you're like, yeah, I'm reading Genesis, and everybody else is reading, Leviticus, they're probably going to be like, hey, what's going on? Like, you need to get on track with everybody else. Like, let's have some accountability here. So let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to try to use this fancy program I have. So here we go. Oh, wow. Check that out. 1 second, my camera messed up. There we go. We're back. So here is the Bible reading plan that we're going to be doing. It's called the Machani Bible Reading Plan. The Machani Bible Reading Plan. And this is going to be posted on our website. This is going to be on our app, email, all that different stuff. But I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this is going to look like for our Bible reading. Let me try to get it here where you guys can see it. So obviously this is like 47 weeks in. I do not want that. But you can see every day is, or 49 days in, is you're going to have a few different things going on. One of the biggest reasons, and I'll just pause here for a second, one of the biggest reasons that people say they stop reading their yearly Bible plans is because you get in those certain parts of Exodus, of Leviticus, of Numbers, just all throughout the Old Testament, where it gets a little hard to read. Like, don't, I don't want to get in trouble here, but it gets a little hard to read. It gets a little confusing. It gets a little redundant. You're kind of reading the same thing. It's like, I read that in 1st and 2nd Kings. Now I'm in 1st and 2nd Chronicles, kind of reading the same thing. It's a little confusing. And so what this Bible reading plan does is every day you're going to be reading a little bit from the beginning of the Old Testament, a little bit from the Gospels, a little bit from more later in the Old Testament, and a little bit from the New Testament. So even if you're in one of those areas where it's a lot of laws and a lot of about sacrifices and the priesthood and those different things, you still have New Testament reading and other reading that you can still pull something from. Because I know a lot of times when you're reading through that, it's like, man, what am I supposed to get out of this? Like, this is all taken care of by Jesus. We're not under this system anymore. Like, why do I have to read this? You still have those other days where you can go and you can read something from Corinthians, or you can read something from Psalms or from Proverbs. So again, that's the Machey. It's really hard for me to pronounce this. The Machani Daily Bible Reading Plan. So again, January 1, our whole church, we are starting in Genesis 1, Matthew 1, Ezra 1, and Acts 1. This says ESV up here because I got this off of the ESV website. I will be reading it in the New King James Version. That's what I normally read the Bible in, and I know that's what a lot of times Pastor Jonathan uses as well, the New King James Version or the King James Version. Let's get off this real quick. I pulled up. All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Little video feedback there. but I'll be using the New King James Version. That's what we preach and teach from mostly at Oasis. I'm actually going to do a live stream soon about different Bibles and why maybe some Bibles are better than others. I really enjoy the New King James Version because I feel like it's easy to read, but it's also fairly accurate. Usually in Bible readings, and I guess I'll just take a second and kind of explain this for those of you that are interested. Bible reading translations, you kind of have what they call word for word translations, whereas they go through the Greek and the Hebrew and the Aramaic, and they actually just translate every word. That would be something like an ESV or an NASB. It's going to be very accurate, but it's also going to be a little bit more difficult to read. So if you're not the best reader, if you already have a little bit of difficulty with that, those are going to be a little bit more difficult. Then you have what they kind of call more of a line for line translation, which is where they'll take basically the sentence and they'll try to change around some of the grammar and different things like that without losing the meaning. And they'll change it around so that it flows a little bit easier. So, the most accurate, you have like your ESV, your NASB, then you kind of have your New King James Version, which is pretty close. Then more of getting more to like the what they call thought for thought is where it's more of like a passage, and they translate it. And this would be something like a Message translation or a Passion translation. And those are good for reading. I don't have a problem with people reading those, but I wouldn't use those to establish doctrine or to establish really what you believe about God, because those are kind of more of what's the word? More of a paraphrase than an interpretation. So I usually tell people, those are fine for kind of extracurricular, but I would stick more with, if you really want something that's going to be accurate, more with your New King James Version, your ESV, the NLT. I like the New Living Translation. I read it some. It's a little bit more over here on this end where it's a little bit looser with the translation. But again, if you are using this more for your daily Bible reading and not so much for preaching and teaching and for establishing doctrine, that would be fine. So went off there a little bit on Bible translations, but we're going to be doing this whole church Bible reading plan. So again, that the Macheni Bible reading plan, you can find it on the YouVersion app. You can find it online. It'll be on all of our stuff. All of our website, all that sort of thing. The next thing that we're going to be doing, so the 100 days, the Bible reading, all that starts on January 1, but January 10th, we're going to be starting, it'll really kick off January 9th on Sunday, but as far as the season, but the actual fasting will kick off on the 10th, is going to be our 21 days of prayer and fasting. And we do this every January at Oasis. We also do it in August. Sometimes in August, we just do a time of prayer, not so much the prayer and fasting, but we do a time of prayer and fasting. If you're still on here with me, let me know in the comments real quick. Let me know. Come on, I see Tony said the West translation is his favorite. Des says that's so exciting. Thank you guys for sticking on here with me. I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about fasting and stuff. Des says, I thought we were fasting for 100 days. No, that would be rough, fasting for 100 days. So just going to be fasting for 21 days, not the 100 days. But with the fast, so let me just explain our thoughts on prayer and fasting, because fasting, I feel like, it's kind of become a trendy thing. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in just the kind of spiritual world, the world of self-help and self-improvement, fasting has kind of become something that's like very, in vogue and people are wanting to talk about. So I wanted to explain what we mean when we say fasting and kind of what fasting is, what fasting is not. So like I said, on the 10th, we're going to start 21 days of prayer and fasting. And there's a few different things that you can do to fast along with us. And first of all, I want to say, if there's any religious people that are watching this, that whole scripture, you're not supposed to talk about fasting, that's completely taken out of context. we do need to talk about fasting. We do need to learn about it. We need to have teaching on it. People that are like, you don't need to talk about it. It needs to be something that you do in secret. That's not what was being taught there. The context of that is you shouldn't be bragging about it, that you're more holy than someone else because you're fasting. You can still talk about it though. So anyways, that's a little side rant. But what I'm probably going to be doing is going to be a liquid fast. And that's a pretty high up there as far as the difficulty, I guess you could say. But I want to just tell a few things to you about fasting, because I feel like, it's something that's very misinterpreted because there's so much information out there in the kind of spiritualism and people mixing in Hinduism and Buddhism and all these different things that if you're not very well, if you haven't been taught, and it's, again, not your fault, but if you haven't been taught in things, it would be very easy to confuse Christian fasting and biblical fasting with just all of this other stuff about fasting that's out there. So I'm pulling up my notes here that I wrote a little bit. So let's just talk about what fasting is not, first of all. And hey guys, I'm gonna just be kicking it on this live stream. So I know it's been a minute, but I'm just gonna keep going. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of this. Please let me know if you are. Bruce is still here. Dez is still here. Thank you guys. Got some people over on YouTube. Dina's watching with me. Chris, thank you guys. So let's talk about fasting for a minute, because I think prayer, for the most part, I'm going to touch on prayer in a minute, but I think prayer, for the most part, those of you that are watching this, you pretty much get prayer, but fasting is the one that I think we mess up on a little bit. So let me tell you what fasting is not. Fasting is not a diet. Fasting is not a cleanse. Fasting is not a way for you to, twist God into doing what you want to do. We've said it before at Oasis. Fasting is not a hunger strike. Fasting, like, God doesn't need food, so he's not going to get upset because you're hungry. If that's your motive behind it, that the more hungry I get, the more God's going to answer my prayers, that's not what it is at all. Fasting is emptying of ourselves, emptying all the junk that's inside of us, all of the things, the desires, and all these things that we want. It's forcing our bodies, forcing our mind to realize that, hey, you are not in control. My human desires, my bodily desires are not in control. And what fasting does is it helps you in so many different areas of life, because when you have a sexual temptation, when you have a temptation with a thought, when you have a temptation with a substance, or all of these different temptations we have, fasting teaches your body, hey, you're not in control. You are not, my fleshly desires, my human desires are not in control. The Spirit's in control of my body. So it's not a hunger strike. It's not all these different things. It's not a diet. It's not a reset. We don't do it at the beginning of the year because we're like, hey, I want God to just do something great this year, and so I'm gonna fast, and so I can get something out of it. God may do something out of it, but that's not why we fast. We fast because it's so easy for us to set up idols in our heart. And you may not be thinking about it this way, but that's why I want to teach on it for a few minutes. But it's so easy for us to set up idols in our heart where we desire fleshly things, we desire earthly things, we desire humanly things more than we desire the things of God. And you're thinking, man, well, that sounds super intense, but think about it. Think about how often in our life, not just with food, but with so many different areas of our life, we would rather take a lesser version than what God has for us because we crave it right now. I heard someone say one time, it's like fasting is kind of like, hey, if I tell you, those of you that are watching right now, if I tell you, hey, I have the best ever filet mignon, or if you're not a steak person, whatever is your thing, I have the best ever. It's the best meat. It costs hundreds of dollars. It's been cooked by the best chef, but you have to fast to eat it, and you can't eat anything until tomorrow afternoon. Then you can eat it. Or I can give you a Big Mac meal right now. Which one would you rather have? Well, I'm sure a lot of us would say, oh, yeah, I want the steak. I want to hold out for the steak. But how often in our life do we know God has something so much better for us? God has a better relationship. God has a better job. God has a better mindset. God has a better friend group. He has so many things better for us. But we would take the lesser thing right now because I desire it right now. I'm lonely right now. I'm anxious right now. I feel worthless right now. So I'm going to take this lesser thing and I'm gonna take that instead of taking what God has for me. That's what we're fighting against when we're fasting. We're not fighting against you trying to lose some weight or you trying to cleanse your body of toxins. That's not what this is about. This is about a very practical, literal thing. That's not a theory. It's not something that we talk about, but it's a practical thing where it says, hey, I'm going to forgo the immediate pleasure. I'm going to forgo getting what I want right now because I'd much rather have what God has for me in the future than what I can get right now. And so we fast. So we fast what we want right now. And idolatry, I heard this said one time, and again, fasting, I think, is the biggest. Fasting is the weapon that we have against idolatry in our life. Fasting is the way that we fight idolatry in our life, because idolatry is not a little statue that you see in someone's home. It's not a figurine. It could be those things, but true idolatry is when you take something that is a lesser thing and you make it the ultimate thing. I'm going to say that again. Idolatry is when you take something that is a lesser thing. It can be anything. It could be a career. It could even be ministry. It could be helping people. It could be serving people. When you take something that is a lesser thing and you make it the ultimate thing, and you make it the thing that you cannot go through life without, that you cannot get through a day without that thing. And again, it's so easy for food to become that thing for us. And it's seeped into our culture so much that it seems almost foreign to us that we would deny ourselves something that, as simple as food, right? Like that's not a big deal. It's not a big problem. It's not, it's not an addiction. It's not illegal. It's not going to hurt anyone. Why would we deny ourselves? Well, it's because food is such a simple form of what my body desires. Before my body desires anything else, we have to have food, water, and shelter. But even before shelter, food and water. So if I'm going to defeat the other desires that I have, if I'm going to defeat the desires to go out and have an affair, if I'm going to defeat the desires to steal money from my job, if I'm going to defeat the desires to get drunk every night, if I'm going to defeat those desires, I have to first defeat the most basic desire of human beings and say, my human body is not what's in control here. My human desire is not what's in control here. God is in control. The Spirit is in control. And here's just a few things that I've written down through different study that I wanted to share with you. The average family, and I actually did a whole teaching on fasting last year, but the average family wastes $1,500 on food every year. Not spends $1,500, wastes $1,500. So think about what we could be doing if we weren't wasting that money on food. Think about if every Christian, every believing family put that $1,500 towards something more useful. Food has created so many body image issues in our culture. We have so many people that have, whether it's on the obese side or whether it's on the anorexic side, we have people that have body image issues because of their relationship with food, because they can't control their relationship with food, whether it's eating in excess or not eating at all. It's both of they can't have a healthy relationship with it. They're giving themselves over to whatever I'm desiring. Okay, so I desire to have a skinny body, so I'm going to starve myself and I'm not going to get the nutrients that I need, the nutrients that God created. Or the opposite way, what I've dealt with is because I feel bad on the inside, I'm going to eat to make myself feel better, and then I get to an unhealthy place where maybe I'm even having to be hospitalized and different things. And so you're like, it's just food. Yeah, but look at what all it's doing in our society. It's created this. I love this quote from John Mark Comer, one of my favorite authors. He said it's created body idolatry and body insecurity. The food culture in the West, the food culture in America has created body idolatry and body insecurity, to where we put the body above everything else. The way I look, the way people perceive me, the way I feel when I look in the mirror, that's the ultimate thing. And so it's become an idol. Our body has become our master. Even in Genesis, the first sin had to do with food. And I know there's debate on that, whether it was actually an apple and all that type of stuff, but I think it's just interesting. The first sin had to do with food. In Matthew chapter 4, Jesus is taken into the wilderness and tempted by the devil. And I always get confused at this, because I'd be like, why would he go into the wilderness? And because, he has to know that the enemy's coming, the devil's coming. Why would he go into the wilderness first and then be tempted? Because I always thought fasting would leave you weak. Fasting would leave you in a place where you couldn't resist the enemy. But it's actually the opposite. That when you come off of a fast, Jesus was coming off of a 40-day total fast. When you come off of a fast, you are more spiritually strong than ever before. You're going to have more power to overcome temptation, more power to say no to things, more power to witness to people, more power in your prayer than ever before. Because you focus that God is the main priority. God is going to sustain me. The Spirit is going to sustain me. And so when the enemy comes to him and begins to tempt him with things, the temptation is easy to overcome, because he's already been sustained for 40 days and 40 nights. He's already been taken care of by the Spirit. So, and then Matthew 6, and this is the last kind of Bible that I'll get into, and then I want to get into some practicalities. But Matthew chapter 6, it actually says Jesus will, throughout that, I believe 5 and 6 says when you pray. It doesn't say if you pray. It doesn't say you should pray. It says when you pray. It says when you give. It doesn't say if you should give, maybe you should give, and then it says when you fast. So if you're one of those people that are like, oh, I don't think we have to do that, I think that's like Old Testament, that's religious. I don't think, okay, all throughout the Bible, all of the great men and women of God that we see who do great things for God are usually either going into or coming out of a time of prayer and fasting. So just think with me for a second, all of those incredible men and women of God that went into a time of prayer and fasting, and then when they came out of it, something incredible happened. What if that could be this January for you? What if this January you went into a time of prayer and fasting and you got so spiritually strong, so built up, you got so much power over all of your temptations and all of your desires and all of your appetites, which we would call it. I have an appetite for different things. What if you got so much power that when you came out of this time of prayer and fasting, that you were so spiritually strong that you could overcome anything? That could be what you get from this time. So here's what fasting is. I want to just go back to the very beginning in the Bible. In the early days, so the Jews, ancient Jews, and still some today, would have fasted every Monday and Wednesday. So it wasn't a idea of if we're going to fast or when are we going to fast. They just knew every Monday and Wednesday they were going to fast. Every Monday and Wednesday they were going to fast. And in their framework, in the Jewish framework, because of the way God created things in Genesis, the day actually begins when the sun goes down. So in the West, in America, and in modern society, we begin the day usually kind of when the sun goes up, or really in the middle of the night at 12 a.m., but they began it when the sun went down. So essentially starting on kind of Sunday night, actually, and then going through dinner on Monday is what they would fast. And the same thing on Tuesday night and Wednesday. So every Monday and Wednesday. Then when the early Christians came around, they kind of want to be different. All these young kids coming around wanting to do things different. They changed it from Monday and Wednesday to Wednesday and Friday. So still, the early Christians were fasting 2 days a week. 2 days a week. It wasn't a question. The kids would have known. It wasn't like, hey, are we going to go out to eat on Friday night? Oh no, man, we're fasting. No, if you were a Christian, if you were a part of the church, you would have known that everyone was just fasting. It was just assumed. Jesus said do it, so we're going to assume that he's telling us the truth, that there's a reason he told us to do that, and so we're going to do it. So fasting is again, there were every day, or I'm sorry, every week they would fast. There were also other special fasts. There were regular fasts. So there are biblical precedent for us to do. Hey, here's a special time of prayer and fasting. But it's not you just going on a diet. It's not you going on a cleanse. And actually, according to ancient Christians, fasting, the biblical definition of fasting is to completely abstain from food. To completely abstain from food. That includes smoothies, fruits, vegetables, water only. That would have been the true definition of fasting. Now, I know that there are lots of different people, lots of different opinions on that. I know the Daniel's fast is very popular. Many people at Oasis do the Daniel fast, and I want, that's totally fine if that's what you want to, do. Please don't take any shame, or I don't want any of that to come across. But I just want you to know the history of it. It would not have been a fad diet. Like, people wouldn't have said, "Oh, I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna do keto." No, that's not. They wouldn't have done that. I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna do Whole30. No, it was, I'm gonna abstain from all this stuff, and I'm gonna only do what is necessary. And so the reason the Daniel fast has gotten so popular is because you can do the Daniel fast even if you're taking medication, or if you have some kind of illness or different things where you need some kind of nutrients. But a Daniel's fast, you're not really going to get much fun out of a Daniel's fast. Like, you're not really going to get full on a Daniel's fast, just greens and water and all that sort of thing. So the reason again is the list again is that it's not a diet, it's not a cleanse, it's not you trying to lose weight. This is for spiritual reasons. I love what Dallas Willard said. He said, fasting is feasting on the Lord and doing his will. Fasting is feasting on the Lord and doing his will. So while you're fasting, you're feasting, but you're feasting on the word of God. You're feasting on prayer. You're feasting on community with other believers. You're feasting on serving God. You're feasting on him filling you up instead of me being filled up by the things of this world. So here's kind of the last thing I have written down from this little teaching that I did a while back is why fast. So number one, you're starving your flesh. You're starving your human desires. You're saying at the most basic level, I am not giving in to my human desires. I'm not giving in to what I want. I'm giving in to what, or I should say, I'm not giving in to what my flesh wants, but I'm going to save myself for what God wants for me. It's also to feed the spirit. It's for your spirit to get built up after everything that's happened in the past couple of months, the past couple of years, past couple of days or hours, whatever's going on in your life. Your spirit needs to be built up. You need to feed your spirit, and that can only be done from the Word of God. That can only be done from time spent in prayer. That's not going to be done by you eating. Like, your spirit's not going to get built up by your eating. So I'm starving my human desires. I'm being built up in the spirit. I'm being refreshed in the spirit. And then also one thing that I discovered that isn't talked about a lot of times in kind of the circles that we come from, more of the kind of Pentecostal circles. But another reason that the early Christians fasted is it was a way to stand in solidarity with the poor. And so people all around the world that don't have access to food, that don't have access to clean water, that are living on less than $2 a day, it was a way for Christians to remind themselves, hey, we've actually been really blessed. Even though I have all these other things going on in my life, I'm actually really blessed that it's a privilege for me to go without food, and this isn't actually something that I'm just having to do because of my circumstances. So we're starving the flesh, we're feeding the spirit, we're standing in solidarity with the poor. So yeah, we're going to be fasting, guys. I know that was a lot. I went off there on fasting for just a few minutes, but I think there's just been so much bad teaching on fasting. I think it's really messed up a lot of people because people are scared to talk about it because they're like, oh, if I tell anybody, God's going to get mad at me because I'm not supposed to talk about fasting. Or they just don't know what's going on. They don't know, really know what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And so if you go to our website, it may not be live yet, but it will be in the next couple of days. If you go to oasistx.org/prayer and fasting, we have a whole web page built out to give you some resources on prayer and fasting. So we have different types of fast. I've already mentioned the water fast. Some would do liquids only. Some would do a Daniel's fast. We have teaching and resources, both from me, from Pastor Jonathan, from other great pastors and teachers and leaders, books. If you want to listen to a teaching or if you'd rather read a book, there's a lot of different resources on there that you can get. But the biggest thing is for you to go to God. What does God want you to do? And the other part I forgot to mention is a lot of times people will say, and I don't want like, because I just don't want to come across as like a mean-spirited type of person, but a lot of people will say, I'm going to fast social media, I'm going to fast going shopping, I'm going to fast different things, and that's incredible. What we would call that is a consecration, because a fast does have so much to do with food. We would say you're going to consecrate yourself for a certain amount of time. So I'm going to be kind of getting off social media, not doing a whole lot of media like Netflix and different things like that, but I'm also going to be fasting some form of food. And so I would just encourage you, if you do want to fast or abstain from social media or from Netflix, or maybe, go into your favorite, you're going to your favorite store, online shopping, all those different things are great. But I would encourage you to implement some kind of food fast in there, even if it's just maybe you can't fast totally for 21 days. I mean, that's something that you need to really prayerfully consider. I think that there is huge benefits in doing something radical like that, but again, that needs to be between you and God. You really need to know if that's what you're supposed to do. But maybe you could fast for one day. A lot of times, like I mentioned about the ancient believers, where they would fast from evening to evening. A lot of times people call that a Jewish fast. You may have heard it called a Jewish fast by other pastors and teachers. So maybe you could, eat maybe Daniel's fast for 6 days a week, and then one of the days a week you could actually do from dinner to dinner. You could do a total fast, and you could say, hey, I'm gonna fast completely for this time frame. So you have to work through that. You have to figure out what's gonna work for you best. You're gonna have to figure out what God has called you to do. But what I feel my responsibility is to get the information out there to you, to make sure that you are educated, that you understand what we mean when we say fasting, because a lot of times in church we can just say, oh, we're going to go on this fast, we're going to do this thing, and people don't really understand. And I'm not putting that on you guys at all. That's totally on. There's been a lot of teachers and pastors and leaders that have just not been that great at explaining things, have not been that great at teaching, and just kind of throw this stuff out there and expect people to know what to do with it. So I want to try to get a little bit better at going through these different teachings and things. So I think that's all I've got for tonight, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm really planning, one of my goals for 2022, you may have missed this earlier in the stream, is to do more streams like this. I feel like one of the biggest, most impactful things that we can going into this new year and really this new era, something I've been feeling a lot in the spirit, is this whole digital discipleship. And I know a lot of people were going hard at the beginning of COVID because we were kind of forced to do it. But I think God is giving us an opportunity as leaders to reach beyond the four walls. Not that we're ever going to not gather together. Those of you that know me know I'm very big on gathering together, being in church, making church a priority. But I think there's opportunities for us to disciple people and to reach more people by doing this digital type of format. So I've been working really hard behind the scenes, just trying to get all the technology stuff together. I posted a picture on my Instagram. It's like I've got a camera and a light here. I've got a computer here. I've got a computer here. I've got my phone here, my iPad, microphone, lights back here. Like, it takes a lot to kind of put all this together, but I've been working on it because I really believe that as this new generation is coming up, that this is going to be a tool that's going to reach a lot of people, that's going to resource a lot of people, and that's going to help us grow as believers. Because something that I have been so burdened with lately is I think that there are a lot of people who truly love God and want a relationship with God, but for different circumstances have never been discipled well, have never been taught well. And when they get to hard circumstances in their life, they end up falling away from the Lord just because the information isn't out there for them to understand what they're going through. And so even in this live stream, I've kind of gone on several different topics because my plan is I'm going to take this video and then chop it up into smaller videos so that people who are just searching on YouTube, on Facebook for fasting or for prayer, or different stuff like that, that they can find those videos and that it can help them. So that's kind of my goal for this. That's kind of my idea why I'm going to be streaming, hopefully streaming more. So I hope that you guys would subscribe to my YouTube channel, like this video, share it on Facebook. And I hate to be that guy. I said at the very beginning, I know that's so annoying, but it really tells the YouTube and Facebook algorithm that people like this. And I think the reason that we don't see a lot of Christian content out online is because Christians aren't really great about celebrating stuff that's going on. And so not that I think I'm the best in the world or that I'm doing something, new and all that type of stuff, but I think we just need to get better at supporting Christian content creators, supporting believers who are putting stuff out there, because if there's people that are never going to walk into a church. There's people that are they're never just going to go up to someone and ask about God. But if they have a recommended video that pops up on their YouTube, or if they have a recommended video that pops up on their Facebook, and maybe it piques their interest, that could be the catalyst that sparks the change in their life and leads them closer to God. So that's kind of my heart behind this. That's kind of my burden behind this. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think everybody on here that was watching knows me pretty well and has my phone number and all that stuff. So maybe reach out to me if you've got any feedback or any suggestions, stuff like that. And then also let me know, like, if you want more, if you want me to dive in some more as we get into this time of prayer and fasting and maybe explain some more things. I would love to know what your questions are, what you would want to hear about, because it's really easy. I mean, there's a million different topics that I would love to teach on and discuss on, but I want to make sure it's things that are actually going to help people who are watching. So if you have an idea of like, man, I'd really like to learn about this, or I'd really like to get more knowledge in this area, I would love to hear about it, because that's going to help me kind of create some calendaring, and I'm going to kind of plan out what I'm going to be teaching throughout the weeks and throughout the months. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to hop on, stay on here for just a second, try to say a shout out to all of you that are watching and commenting, but thank you guys so much. I see Mr. Felix is on here. Thank you guys. Putting your flesh into submission. Yeah, that's right. Fasting's putting your flesh into submission. Thank you guys so much for the support, for the feedback. I'm going to go ahead and hop off now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll make sure you